Open coverage is sponsored by AG1. AG1 is the daily foundational nutrition supplement that supports whole body health.
And as part of our US Open coverage, Kim and I are taking a little AG1 challenge of our own, and we'll be updating you on our AG1 journey and how it's improving our health and wellness. So Kim, you've now started on AG1. How are you finding it?
I'm loving it, Chris. I recently went to the Lake District for a long weekend, and I love the fact that I could just take the travel packs with me. They fit nicely into my weekend bag, and it meant I could still approach my daily nutrition in exactly the same way wherever I am in the country.
Yeah, I mean, I left the country. I took mine to New York, and I think you'll agree that at the tennis, you don't always have the most healthy food available. So I definitely needed that nutritional top up. And so if you're looking for a comprehensive solution for your supplement routine, try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase.
Go to drinkag1.com/tennisweekly. That's drinkag1.com/tennisweekly. Check it out.
Please take your seats quickly, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Tennis Weekly with Joel, Kim and Chris. On today's US Open quarterfinals catch-up, sponsored by AG1.
Ben Shelton wins the All-American battle.
Sabalenka is yet to drop a set.
And Djokovic makes a record 47th semi-final.
Chris, today is the 6th of September. We are here to catch up on the quarterfinal action from the US Open here at Tennis Weekly HQ. It's myself and you today. Joel is off today, and it's good for me to be back because I know you've both been holding the fort at Tennis Weekly HQ over the last week, and you're back from the US Open from New York. You've landed safely back in Copenhagen. Very exciting. I'm so pleased you were out on the grounds to, explore and report back for Tennis Weekly. But how are you doing now that you're back to reality post Grand Slam?
There is a bit of a come down, I think, because the intensity over in New York is much, much different. I think whether you're at the tennis, it's pretty intense. There's an awful lot going on, an awful lot of people, and the same with New York. And I feel like coming back to Copenhagen, it's a bit like, where is everyone? It's just so quiet over here. But I've been watching a lot of the tennis since I got back, and it's one of those things, you don't really feel like you were there. Like, I feel like I stepped into the TV, and now I don't really think I ever went as life goes on. But you've also been away, Kim. You were out in the lakes as well. Did you manage to catch any of the action?
I did. So I went to the Lake District, and actually for me, the tennis was really well timed because I could go out, do some walking in the day, explore because it was quite nice weather. And then I'd get back for my sort of, afternoon cup of tea, bit of cake, and put the tennis on. So it was just the right time. And then I could just chill in like the cottage and watch the tennis of an evening. So it was a much needed break. But I'm pleased that you both, that you had a great time as well. And, what was your best sort of match, or like what was the highlight from your trip? Like, was there a particular player that impressed you the most from everyone that you saw?
I probably would have to say the Petra Kvitova versus Caroline Wozniacki match. I really enjoyed that. I think that was when we all started to take that comeback a bit more seriously. That was a really great contest, and thought that both players played pretty well in that. And it was just almost like a stepping into, 2013, which I thought kind of gave it that extra special feel. And it was great to see kind of a player that you're so familiar with who has added something to their game, and everyone was very pleased to have her back in. It's great to see her be welcomed back in. The crowd was so kind of lively for that one. But that would be one. And then I think probably there was a beautiful sunset when I was out on grandstand watching Casper actually lose. But it was a stunning scenery for that match, and it kind of felt like a really magical postcard moment. So I'd say the best tennis that I enjoyed was Wozniacki, but the best picture goes to grandstand on a sunset. So,
and would you have perhaps, whilst enjoying the sunset, had a honey juice while you were there, Chris? Because we've got to talk about this. It's like the US Open version of Pimm's, isn't it? It's their iconic drink that you have to have if you're there. So were you able to sample a bit of the honey juice?
It's everywhere. I mean, they sell it in cans in New York City as well. Even at the airport, they're giving people samples of it. So they really do a big push. It's honey juice, but it's spelt juice as in 40 all in tennis. So DEUCE. So you see what they did there, Kim?
Yeah, and it's not just juice. There is alcohol, so don't be giving it to any kids.
I think probably they couldn't call it juice because of that reason, maybe for legal reasons. But what it has in it, it has a mixture of vodka, lemonade, raspberry liqueur, and then it's garnished with 3 melon balls. So it sounds very refreshing, and it does taste as refreshing as it sounds. I think you're able to tell just how wealthy someone is by how many of these glasses they have stacked up, because on the outside of them, people keep them. It has all of the previous champions. And so some people pile them up high, and at $22 a pop, some people have spent a small fortune on the honey juice. So be careful. Because you can get carried away, and then the bill might not be something that you're looking forward to seeing on your credit card afterwards.
I wonder if they do the return your cup and get like $2 back, like they do at Wimbledon. I'm not sure if you saw that.
I think they keep them.
Right.
Yeah.
Souvenirs. Well, I like the sound of it. I've not been to the US Open. It's like the one remaining slam, so I will ensure that I have a honey juice when I do go, and maybe I'll compare it to a Hugo. Oh yeah, yes. I could make one myself.
I've got the recipe right here.
Maybe I'll do that on the weekend when the finals are on, as a sort of toast.
Give us the verdict. Melon balls and all.
Verdict. Yeah, I might have to go and source some melon balls. But no, I'm glad you're back. You've had your cocktail, and you had good weather as well, right? It was pretty decent,
and
weather,
not as humid as it is now. It's pretty intense, I believe, in New York and also in London.
Yeah, London. It's pretty hot. We've got kind of one final week of summer, so recording this quite hot at the moment. It's just as well Joel's not here, because I know he struggles quite a bit in the room that he records from. But one other thing that caught my eye recently was that Naomi Osaka, we've seen her back at the US Open. She's watching Medvedev versus Rublev, I think, as we speak, as we record this. So she's been back to, I think, speak at a mental health forum with Michael Phelps, the swimmer, which is exciting. But it's just good to see her back making a bit of an appearance, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And she's definitely someone who wanted to stay quite close to the game, and she made it clear that having had her baby, she's even more determined to come back to the tour and play tennis. So this is another sign that she's going to be in Australia, and she really wants to stay close to the sport. Yeah,
well, we'll look forward to her coming back. I mean, we've seen how good Wozniacki's been. I think maybe better than some of us expected, since coming back from her break. So
definitely
I guess
better than our collector set predictions. I think most people thought she'd go out in round 1 or round 2.
Yes, myself included. We will get on to our collector set update at the end of today's episode, and we'll be revealing who's currently in the lead. So do stay tuned for that. Let's look back though at the action from the quarterfinals so far. As we're recording this, we've got a couple more matches remaining, but most of them are done, and we do have most of our semi-final lineup sorted. So let's look back at day 9's action. We had the 2 women's quarterfinals. Jelena Ostapenko against Coco Gauff, and also Sorana Castella against Karolina Muchova. Let's start with Coco Gauff against Ostapenko. I mean, both of these matches were fairly similar and pretty one-sided, so quite comfortable scorelines. Coco Gauff, 6-love, 6-2 over Ostapenko in just 67 minutes. Ostapenko, having beaten Iga Swiatek the round before, knocking out the defending champion and the world number 1. Coming up against Coco Gauff, though, a completely different story. What do you think was, the main reason for this scoreline, Chris? Because, I expected a lot more from Ostapenko in this match.
I really did as well. I think we all had high hopes for this, because all the evidence pointed to it being one of those moments in the tournaments where she really got her act together and played some really tidy tennis. And that's something that we didn't really see kind of before this in the tournament for her. There were a few hiccups along the way for her, and it looked like in that final set that she really kind of cracked the code. But it looks like the reality was she was particularly fired up, to make a statement win in a night session match against the world number 1, when, to make the point that she isn't just a one slam wonder, that she does have sort of big Grand Slam potential, and then to go out in the way that she did, I think it was such a shame that she couldn't find her game, because in the previous round, she hit 31 winners and 20 unforced errors. And when she was told that, she couldn't really believe how few errors she'd hit. Which, I mean, if you think about it, that was a 3-set match. And then in the match against Coco Gauff, she actually managed to hit 36 unforced errors, and it was 6-love, 6-2. So I think that pretty much tells the story of the match, Kim.
Yeah, and do you think that, Ostapenko had the late night match on, what was it? Not the previous night, but the night before that, when she beat Swiatek. This match against Coco Gauff, was the first sort of match on. I think Gauff requested this time slot, so rather than the night session. Do you think that might have not helped Ostapenko? She's coming out, she probably does better at the night session. It might have been a bit flat, sort of playing so early, being first up on Ash. Do you think that had anything to do with it, or do you think maybe it's just something we've seen before, getting that big win over world number one and just kind of not able to follow it up, sort of having that letdown afterwards?
I think there's always a risk of having a letdown after a standout performance. I do think, if you are, for example, Coco Gauff, would you want to play a night match against Ostapenko at the US Open? Probably not. Would you rather play her in the day? It's a bit warmer. Coco's one of the fittest players on the tour. Ostapenko's in great... she doesn't have any problems when she plays 3-set matches at all physically, but it's probably the heat is something that Gauff is probably more used to. Latvia gets slightly warm, but I'm not sure it hits some of the heights of the places that Coco trains in. So I do think it probably doesn't lead to perfect preparation. These are athletes going to bed at 3 a.m. There were still being things posted on Ostapenko stories like 3:30 a.m. So that's not exactly the perfect sleeping preparation before one of the biggest matches of your career, and the adrenaline sort of come down from that. But as we've seen before with Ostapenko, she can win a match wonderfully and lose the next one badly. And she beat Coco in Australia. She had a great run to the quarterfinals there, and then she didn't necessarily make an impact past that. So we're seeing signs of improvements. Scheduling didn't help, I wouldn't say, but at the same time, Ostapenko would have been beaten by almost anybody if she put those numbers together.
Yeah, exactly. They weren't pretty, whichever way you look at it. And, without wanting to take away from Coco Gauff, because she has played, great tennis this tournament. Like, her run of form, as we've said, like several times since Wimbledon, has been almost perfect. 16 of 17 matches she has won since that loss to Kenin in the first round at Wimbledon. She's got, new coach Pere Rieber on board. Brad Gilbert's kind of working as a consultant, and we know his caliber and how successful he's been. And what I love is just the fact that, Coco Gauff has come out to say that one of the things that Brad Gilbert said to her is she just needs to essentially smile more and enjoy the game, rather than being so serious and so focused. And I think we're really getting to see that coming out of, this tournament. She's enjoying it, and obviously she's focused on getting good results. But if you don't have that love of the game, which is why you started picking up a racket in the first place, those results just aren't going to come. And, how important do you think that mindset has been, over the past kind of 10 days or so?
Well, if they're saying there hasn't been a technical change to the forehand, that's slightly surprising. But I guess maybe it's a case that, previously we've seen Coco get into those tight matches and she looks very visibly stressed. She doesn't look like a Caroline Wozniacki who's in a tight match, who looks like she's dialed in and loves the fight. She's really enjoying the battle there. And I think with Coco, it's always looked a bit like she's concerned that this is going to get away from her. And I think that is something that's so different in this tournament, because she looks like she's thriving in the third set of these matches and thriving in those moments where she has to turn it on, find another gear and turn the match around. And that's something that we haven't seen from her in such a long time, since when she was probably, well, I say such a long time, she's 19, but probably when she was 15 or 16 coming on the tour, when she really used to love the battle. And I think the expectation probably meant that she wasn't enjoying it as much. So even someone reminding you to have fun and this is enjoyable, I think clearly is underrated, because there's something about her where she talked about the fact she doesn't feel as emotionally drained at this stage of the slam. And I think that is because, she will be fine either way, whether she wins or whether she loses. It's not the end of the world, and as long as you enjoy yourself out there. But she did say there's a time to be serious as well. So it's not all fun and games, Kim.
Yeah, but if she were to get into, the final, you want to enjoy that. She would be into a Grand Slam final as a teenager on home soil, and if you can only solely focus on the outcome of that and not actually enjoy the process and that actually being there, then you're not kind of living in the present moment, are you? Yeah. So I think it is a really healthy mindset to take and just focus on the here and now and enjoying it. And how long may it continue for Coco Gauff, because it's clearly working well so far. So we'll see if that continues. But she will face Karolina Muchova in the semi-final. That will be a repeat of the Western and Southern Open final in Cincinnati, which Coco Gauff won in straight sets. So they are battling out again quite soon after that. And Muchova got her place in the semi-final in another sort of straightforward result, 6-love, 6-3 over Sorana Castella. Castella, obviously, earlier in the tournament, she beat Elena Rybakina. So Muchova coming through pretty comfortably. She has now made the semi-finals or better at 3 of the 4 majors. So her good season continues to go well. Obviously, she got to the French Open final, and now she finds herself into the semis of the US Open. Both her and Coco Gauff, 2 of the sort of standout players of late as well, really. But what did you make of this particular match? Did you expect more from Castella, or was this always in kind of Muchova's hands to lose, given that Castella is, was the kind of unseeded sort of surprise entity, I suppose?
Yeah, she definitely was lower in the rankings at the moment, but she's always dangerous. And I think the matchup with Muchova is a very bad matchup for her, in the sense there's so much variety that comes from Muchova's racket. And I've seen it with Murray when he was playing against Dimitrov, and the slice really did neutralise a point at the US Open. I think the amount of slice that Muchova was using meant that Castella had to make all of her own power. And that just led to a situation where a lot of unforced errors. It was very difficult. She definitely likes a player to give her a lot of pace, like a Rybakina. She kind of thrives in those sorts of situations. So the scoreline, I wasn't expecting a bagel, that's for sure. I was expecting probably 2 relatively close sets, because Castella has been serving pretty well this tournament. But in terms of Muchova, I think it's just so great to see that she has backed up that French Open final, because there was a little bit of a wobble after that. And I think naturally she was so close to coming to kind of achieving one of the biggest dreams she probably had. And I think it's just worthy kind of saying at this point that last year she was ranked 235 in the world with a series of kind of really serious injuries. And now she's back in the top 10 and she's into a second semi-final at a major. So it feels like the talent that you saw all those years ago when you predicted her to win the French Open, it's coming through, Kim.
I did, yeah. I mean, maybe she will actually, go all the way at the French eventually. But yeah, she's really had a breakthrough since she kind of came through a few years ago. And obviously that injury she had derailed her, which meant her ranking did drop down, like you said, to the 235 in the world. But it feels like she's finally getting back to like where her trajectory always was, going. Like now she's into the top 10. So it will be interesting, because both her and Gauff, they've been to 1 Grand Slam final each, which is at the French Open. And now they're, both vying for a place in their second Slam final. And, Coco Gauff has that recent result over Muchova, which should give her a lot of confidence. However, she has said, Muchova in that match was very physically kind of struggling. So it's going to be a different kind of ball game this time round, because they've got a day in between to rest since their quarterfinal matches. So Gauff has said she's not going to just obviously assume that because she won a few weeks ago that it's going to be comfortable, because Muchova was very, very much fatigued in Cincinnati. The other thing that I just wanted to quickly touch upon, Chris, from the Muchova quarterfinal, she did take a very long break at the end of the first set. So she'd won the first set 6-love. Probably don't think there's a drastic need to have a long bathroom break. But there was a bit of consternation on social media that, she was kind of taking the piss, I suppose, by taking such a long break. She took a change of clothes with her, and she's sort of having, I guess, toilet breaks plus a change of clothes, which sort of means that you're able to kind of have that slightly extended break. But what did you make of this? Do you think it's pure tactics, or do you think that players should be entitled to just go off and take that time if they want to?
I think it's a tricky one because, I mean, the nature of the rule is that it's a toilet break and you get a set amount of time. And if you're changing clothes, you get an additional amount of time. So it seems that if you are looking, and I'm not saying that she was looking for kind of a tactical refocus sort of moment, because I do think that winning a set 6-love, I think Daniela Hedgkova said this, is one of the worst things that can happen to you, because the only way that's going to go is a little bit worse unless you double bagel someone. You know, it's going to be, there will be a hiccup in the next set probably, because you're clearly playing fantastic tennis to get to that point, or, you know, your opponent has played badly and their level might pick up. So I don't think it's the strangest time in the world to take that break. But in terms of what I experienced in New York, would be very rarely would a set then start immediately. There was always an extended break, and no matter what stage of the match it was, whether it was the first set, and we saw it with Medvedev against Diminar, he lost that set badly. It was only one set, and we're in an evening match, so it's the coolest it will be, and it's unlikely you need a change of clothes at that point. And so I do think that right now the rule is kind of allowing people to actually take extended breaks, and it was supposed to obviously reduce the number of toilet breaks that people were taking and the amount of time you could take. But now it seems like it's almost a mandatory 10 minutes before the start of the next set. So it doesn't happen as much at Wimbledon. I would say, I mean, Iga did that and does that regularly if she loses a set, because it makes sense from a mental refocus perspective. But it does just feel like it's a slightly misuse of the rule and not really in the spirit of the game. And for me, I found it quite frustrating, you know, that this is happening so frequently.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, I did experience it as a person in the crowd at Wimbledon, and I think as an audience member, after a long, tiring set that's gone down to the wire, you almost expect a break. I feel like everyone needs a break, the players, the crowd, just to sort of regroup.
Get back in.
Yeah, or get a honey juice.
Yes.
But so I kind of get it. But when it was like, 6-love set, I think that's when it's like, oh, that's a bit strange, because
you've been on court 10 minutes.
Quite a quick set and everything seems to be going well. But, you know, you never know what a player's kind of emotional status might be, or if there's something else going on. And, you know, when I'm at work in the office, you know, it's nice to go off and have a tea break, isn't it? So,
it is.
And then I come back refreshed.
And then change your clothes fully. Yeah.
Yeah, my seventh outfit of the day for my seventh meeting. Yeah.
Yes, she's had a few breaks today, Kim.
So I don't know. I feel like breaks are, you know, nice benefits, but maybe they shouldn't be benefits. Maybe they are rights, and maybe, I don't know, they need to be. There needs to be a balance, doesn't there? But it's
blurred.
It's blurred. It's hard to, I think, regulate, because the stricter you become about it, the more like infringement you're perhaps doing on someone's, you know, circumstances. I mean, Daniel Medvedev has also been criticised recently for taking it a long break. He was playing Alex de Minaur in his quarterfinal, dropped the first set, which perhaps surprised some people. So Medvedev got his entire bag off, left the court, and then, you know, came back with fresh clothes on, took the next 3 sets to win. So, you know, he's also picked up a bit of criticism for doing that. But I kind of feel like you almost expect it these days if you're going to.
You really do. I
top
said this
seed
on
losing of the first set, you know, it's just kind of.
I said
dumb.
that on the podcast with Iga when she was playing Bencic. I was queuing to get back onto centre court, and I just knew there was no rush because I knew she'd left the court, and then I got on. Sure enough, she'd left. So it's a bit predictable, and I think if you know it's going to happen and you aren't the person, it's a bit silly at that point. But at the end of the day, it's within the rules. And unless the rules change or the interpretation of the rules changes, then I guess will be much more of a feature that we all get time to make that extra cup of tea before we settle in for the next set.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, breaks aren't always a bad thing. Let's have a look at the men's results from yesterday. So we had Novak Djokovic in action against Taylor Fritz, and we also had an all-American lineup with Ben Shelton playing Francis Tiafoe. Let's look at the Fritz-Djokovic match. I was quite intrigued going into this one because I thought, Taylor Fritz has come through very nicely through the draw, barely dropping a set. hadn't dropped a set, but barely dropping games. He'd had a very comfortable pathway through, and I think was one of the only players to have not dropped any sets. But he just came up against Djokovic, and it's just a very comfortable 6-1, 6-4, 6-4 scoreline. Djokovic, just comfortable, very predictable in the end. Was Taylor Fritz just not at the races, Chris, or was there something in Taylor Fritz's pathway through that was a bit of a false friend? Because I was expecting a lot more from him personally.
Yeah, and I think you probably would expect a lot more from himself in many ways, especially from his serve. His serve was picked apart by Djokovic, especially the second serve. He won 29% of points on second serve, whereas Djokovic won 66%. Break points won, he only took 2 of 12 chances. He had more break points than Djokovic did, but Djokovic, being Djokovic, took 6 of 9. So I think the preparation was not ideal coming into it. I think the celebrating about the quarterfinal at a slam, I think he went a little bit overboard, because I saw on Twitter, and then I double checked this, it's actually factually correct that he didn't play a player who had won a tour level hardcourt match this year on his way to the quarterfinals. His first 4 opponents had not won a match on tour on hard courts, which is kind of crazy when you think about it from a draw perspective. And it's not the best, preparation to play against probably the greatest player of all time when it comes to the results. So I think it was just such a big leap up, and that first set being 6-1, I think it probably was a bit of a shock to the system. He did have some chances. He had some chances to break back when Djokovic was serving for the match. And for me, it's just the difference between someone who is, one of the ultimate competitors, who is able to raise his game in key moments, versus someone who's the challenger and hasn't really reached that level when it comes to competition, because 2 of 12 break points, even if it is against Djokovic, you really have to think that he's got to be able to do more than that. And, the serve is so important. It's such a big part of his game. So quite disappointing, and probably quite hard for him to come to terms with the fact that he has got a quarterfinal, but it's not that big an achievement, really.
Yeah, given his opponents hadn't, notched a hard court win between them. That's not great, and it's always going to be a tall, a tough ask coming up against Djokovic, who, will be the new world number 1 from next week. That's always a difficult match.
It's not the easy draw in if you're having a quarterfinal, it's a bad draw.
Yeah, and you want to be like primed and ready to go rather than having maybe, walks in the park prior to that. I mean, one thing I thought was quite amusing from Djokovic was, obviously it was quite a partisan crowd. He's up against, a home crowd wanting to cheer their man Taylor Fritz on. So he did have a few fans shouting out whilst he was going to hit, I think, an overhead. And instead of, maybe having a go at the umpire or what have you to keep the noise down, he got his friends to have a chat with the spectator who made the noise. So he obviously has friends in all sorts of places, does Djokovic. So you can get them to do his.
Careful what you say. You might be sat next to a Djokovic friend.
A friend, yeah. You better not be going around having a go at Djokovic, because he might have mates in the audience ready to sort you out.
Have a little word. Yeah, I mean, it's a different way of dealing with it, isn't it, Kim? I think it's kind of nice though, because I think it shows an appreciation of the fact that, and having been at the US Open, it's very loud. People don't stop talking, especially at a night match. And I think he said. People speak, they move around. You've got to be ready for that, particularly in the US Open, especially in the night session. So it is kind of just business as usual. But obviously, if someone makes a call that sounds like an out, that does impact the game. That is a big problem. But I will definitely be looking around to make sure that no one is wearing, the Djokovic logo next to me before I clap at a wrong point.
I would expect better of you anyway, Chris. No cheering of double faults at Tennis Weekly. We don't go in for that. But they did have the crowd did have a slightly more competitive match with Ben Shelton against Francis Tiafoe. This was the first All-American quarterfinal since 2005. Any guesses, Chris, for who that quarterfinal back in 2005 would have been between?
I've got a bit of a clue, because Joel tested me on who the 3 Americans who made it last time.
Oh, well, there you go. You're primed.
So I've got three names. Just got to get the right two. I think
The right combination.
Was it Jeanette Pri and Agassi? Did they play each other?
It was Agassi, but it was James Blake versus
honestly,
Andre Agassi.
When I've got three of the names and two to give, I get it wrong. But par for the course, I'll do much better.
Yeah. But this time, this time, Ben Shelton has made it through. So getting the better of Francis Tiafoe, who is, slightly older than Ben Shelton, Shelton being 20 years old. It was 4 sets in the end, 6-2, 3-6, 7-6, 6-2. I think, in a way, for me, it kind of hinged a bit on that third set tie break, which went 9-7, and I feel like if Tiafoe had got that, it might have been a different story perhaps, but he got broken right at the start of the fourth, so Ben Shelton was able to kind of race through that fourth set and go into his first Grand Slam semi-final. The last person to do that, the last American man of that age to get to the last four, was Michael Chang in 92.
Wow.
So it's been a long, long time for the young Americans. And I don't know, will he be able to go any further? He's got Novak Djokovic next up. So can he do any better than Taylor Fritz? Based on what you saw of Ben Shelton against Tiafoe, do you think he's in with even a chance to spring a surprise?
If I'm being really honest, I think someone who's in the 47th semi-final versus someone's first, I think it's going to be tricky. It's such a big moment, and I do think he'll get a set. I do think he's going to turn up, absolutely. But I do think when it comes down to it, it's such a big ask. And in this match, I think he was able to get it done. I think Tiafoe, we talked about this beforehand on the last podcast, that it's very difficult when the whole narrative for Tiafoe last year and on the Breakpoint episode is this amazing story, this amazing sort of American story, an American dream story in terms of his phenomenal rise up the rankings to the semi-final, and then suddenly you're not necessarily the favourite, you're not necessarily the story. This guy's 19, it's an unbelievable story again, and I think it really impacted him because the pressure was on him, and I think at times he was looking not to lose the match rather than win it, because when he had that set point in that tie break you mentioned, he rolled in 83 mile an hour, second serve, no spin, middle of the box, and Shelton absolutely thumped it for a winner. And it's the two sides of it, a 20-year-old with nothing to lose, and Tiafoe, who has been there before and really, really is expected to win this match. So I think that's a very different situation to playing against Novak Djokovic, where I don't think he really feels the pressure in the same way. I think against Alcaraz, there was definitely some pressure he felt in that final. But I don't think that a Ben Shelton in the semi-final will provide that same level of pressure for him. And it's one mountain too far, maybe. Yeah,
I think given how, I guess, vulnerable they were on serve in this match with Tiafoe, there's so many breaks of serve. I do think that Djokovic isn't going to have too much difficulty. But unless the heat gets to him, we have seen Djokovic looking quite exhausted at times in the heat and the humidity. And Shelton does have age. Yeah, Shelton does have age on him, but I don't think it's going to be enough to knock Djokovic off over 5 sets. To be quite honest.
What did you think of his celebration? The phone call thing he's been doing at the end. He's been almost dialing a phone number and answering the call. It's quite a different sort of celebration.
Yeah, and there's a name
up this time actually.
Apparently he does it because his friends do it at university, and there's an athlete he trains with. I'm not quite sure of the kind of the athlete in question, a Grant Holloway.
Yes, a world champion.
Is he a famous American athlete? I've just
yes,
I'm not
he
aware
is
of.
Indeed.
Okay, I'm not very tuned in to American.
This is Tennis Weekly, not Athletics
sports.
Weekly. We're in the clear.
Exactly. But yeah, I think it's different. I mean, I quite like Shelton's vibe. I really like his outfit as well. I'm loving the pink.
The on-running vibes.
Yes.
People gave that a lot of hate. They're like, it looks...
Really?
People have said that it looks like it's the worst outfit when it comes to like for how sweaty people get. But I'm like, it's blooming warm out there. Yeah. And I think it just has the same thing as the Asics with Ons Jabeur, where it does look a black colour or a dark colour with the pink does look a bit sweatier than it might do. But in real life, I thought when Iga was wearing it and he was wearing it in that team set, I thought that was pretty snazzy, to be honest. But I guess that team match, that was very competitive and team was really not feeling well. So it feels like, did he dodge a bullet there, Ben Shelton? Would he have got this amazing run if team had been fit? Because he only just edged that set against Dominic Thiem, and that's a very under par Dominic Thiem. So begs the question.
Could all have been very different. Imagine if
was
we
it Dominic
were
Thiem
on
in the semi-final?
Yeah, imagine if we were on for Dominic Thiem against Djokovic. I mean, that would be a blast from the past a bit, wouldn't it?
Would, indeed.
Yeah, fantastic. Just before we go for a quick break, a couple of updates from the doubles. I'm really pleased because Joe Salisbury is back into the semi-finals of the men's doubles with Rajiv Ram. I feel like he's been a bit in the wilderness of late, but they're the third seed and they've come through. They got into the semi-finals, so they're still in the hunt.
Going for a third consecutive
going for third, yeah,
men's
exactly,
doubles title at the US Open.
They do love this tournament.
They do.
And one of the podcast favourites, Gabby Dabrowski, she's into the semis of the women's doubles.
That was tight.
With Erin Routliffe. Yeah.
Down to the wire there, but a great result for Gabby.
It was indeed. And in the mixed doubles, we've got Jessie Pegula and Austin Krajicek, number one seeds, through to the semi-final. So although Pegula's singles has not quite worked out, she might be on for a mixed doubles title still. But let's take a very quick break now. We'll be back in the second half to look back on all the action so far from day 10 at Flushing Meadows. So do not go anywhere.
Our US Open coverage is sponsored by AG1. AG1 is the daily foundational nutrition supplement that supports whole body health.
If a comprehensive solution is what you need for your supplement routine, then try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase.
Go to drinkag1.com/tennis weekly. That's drinkag1.com/tennis weekly. Check it out.
Welcome back to the Tennis Weekly podcast, sponsored by AG1. And now we're going to move on to looking at today's action from the US Open so far. We have had a completed women's quarterfinal between Aryna Sabalenka and Qinwen Zheng, and that ended in a straight sets victory for Aryna Sabalenka, 6-1, 6-4. She will be the new world number one as of next week, and she is into the semi-finals of the US Open once again. She still hasn't dropped a set, and she's sort of just flying through the tournament, Chris. Do you think she is the woman to beat now that she's made her way into semis very comfortably? She's the highest seed left in the draw. Is it hers to lose?
You have teed me up perfect there, Kim, because I predicted her to win the tournament. So I'm feeling very smug right now. But I honestly think she is the player to beat. And I love the fact that she found out that she was world number one. And she said, you know what? I was hoping I'd have to fight for it in a tennis match. She loves it. And I think she'll be even more motivated now. She has got the world number one ranking to win the title. And it feels like it's not in any way distracted her. Her game is probably even more solid than Australia based on the matches that I've seen. This one, it was pretty much run of the mill from her. I think Zhang did a bit better in that second set, but the break was secured pretty early towards the middle of that set and then never looked back. And on serve, I mean, she's a completely different animal this year to last year. And she's playing some fantastic tennis. So I guess for Sabalenka, the key will be, how does she hold up under pressure? She obviously came through in Australia against Jabeur. She had her chances. I think she would probably look back and think that was a match that got away from her. And so based on the tennis that people can play, I think she's the favourite.
Yeah, and she's just, her sort of big serve and, the power that she's got. She's just been sort of comfortably kind of moving through the draw. And, what I think is really impressive is she's actually the first player since 2016 to have reached the semi-final at all slams, which, you know, just goes to show how consistent she has become at this level. And I think, you know, she fully deserves that world number one ranking, regardless of if she does go and win this title. You know, she's putting in those performances. She'll be up against either Vondrousova or Madison Keys, who will be playing later on. So that will be, you know, either one of them will be her next opponent. And I mean, she has quite a good head-to-head over both of those players, I think. So I would be tipping Sabalenka to come through either Vondrousova or Keys. You know, I know Vondrousova, Wimbledon champion. She, you know, she's obviously continuing in good form here. But yeah, I think Sabalenka. I think your prediction is still looking good, Chris. And what I liked is that she got a nice congratulatory text from world number one Novak Djokovic, who will, well, he'll also become world number one next week. So quite weirdly, we've got all the world number ones changing next week, which is the first time I think that's happened, I think, ever. Is that right, Chris?
I think ever. Yeah, I think it says the first time in tennis history. So I have to say, this is from the workings of Stephen J. Tennis. So I have to give full credit there. I think it's since rankings began. And so this means that the WTA singles number one from the 11th of September, so next week, will be Sabalenka, ATP Djokovic. In the doubles, it will be Gauff Pegula or Shea Suwei. And for the ATP doubles, it's Krajicek, who's still in the mixed doubles as well. So it's all to play for this week. And I mean, it's quite fun in the doubles. That's definitely an interesting story because they're currently locked in a third set in the battle for the world number one ranking at the moment. So the winner of that, I believe, whether it's Shea or whether it's Gauff or Pegula, will take the ranking. And currently, Shea and Wang are up in that match. So all very exciting, adding to the kind of the dynamic for Coco this week. There's never a dull moment on, well, I mean, they're playing every day, those girls from America. They're really getting their tennis hours in.
Yeah, but we have seen that before, you know, with players doing well in both the singles and the doubles. So obviously Coco Gauff still in both tournaments, having played pretty much every day. But that's probably helping her to just relax and enjoy her tennis as well. And I think, you know, that's got to be, you know, got to count for something. We've seen like Krejcikova at the French, you know, winning both. And I think it helps players sometimes, as long as they're sort of physically not...
Iga's first run to the French title as well, I believe she actually reached the final with Bethany Mattek-Sands that year. Would have been 2020, I think, that result, showing, you know, that she was able to, you know, do both. And I think it helped kind of take the pressure off because, I mean, if you talk about enjoying it on the court with Pegula, Pegula's there to enjoy herself. She very much subscribes to that when it comes to playing tennis. You see her smile regularly, and obviously Coco really enjoys playing with her. So maybe it's also taking the pressure off because it feels like, you know, you're not doing it by yourself.
Yeah, exactly. I'd much rather have someone out there to help me.
Me as your doubles partner,
be all
Kim.
alone. Yeah, should we enter the Tennis Weekly mixed doubles?
Wait, where was it going to be? It was going to be down somewhere in the south of London. Croydon.
The Croydon International, yeah. We'll have to get that going at some point.
Yeah. No
Sponsored by AG1.
Oh, yes, one sponsor.
Well, after taking our AG1, we're going to be flying around the court. So
absolutely.
We also, just talking about Jessie Pegula, we mentioned that she's in the semi-finals of the mixed. That is actually an all-American semi-final because not only is she playing with Austin Krajicek, who will be the men's doubles number one from next week, like you just said, but they're up against Ben Shelton and Taylor Townsend. So quite a lot of Americans doing well in the doubles at high levels as well.
Ben Shelton.
Ben Shelton also in the semis of both. So he's another player like Coco, who's having an absolute flyer of a tournament. It
does feel like it's a bit Team USA, doesn't it, in some ways? That there is very much a team effort and getting the results, there's a lot of support there for them, which is great to see. And I think seeing these American success stories, I just wish the Brits could do a bit more of this at Wimbledon. You know, I think we've definitely got some talent now. And I think with Raducanu and Bolter back, I think we could definitely do something a bit special. We've got the doubles talent, that's for sure. And the singles, actually, Davis Cup, we've got a lot of players, haven't we? We do, yeah. And it's actually going to be, who do we not select? You know, there's going to be someone who has to miss out, which is, you know, a much nicer challenge to, I guess, have to think about rather than, oh, who on earth are we going to pick? Because no one's
highly ranked enough, for example. But yeah, Team USA, I mean, it's the Olympics in 2024 in Paris. So I guess they'll be definitely thinking ahead with these partnerships, you know, to who will be the best teams to put forward, if as long as everyone's sort of up and ready for it.
Yes, and we did have one more doubles result, actually. Someone who made a big impact earlier on in the tournament, Lara Sigmund and Vonareva, who have previously won this title, actually. They won their doubles quarterfinal today. That was 5-7, 7-5, 6-4. So that was against Azarenka and Haddad Maia. And it makes you think that obviously Haddad Maia doesn't like a short match. And I don't want to know how long that match was, but it definitely seemed like it was a very long one.
Yeah, well, Sara Sorribes Tormo was not involved. So, I mean, if you have her as your doubles partner, you're going to be in for a very tiring day, perhaps. But we do have almost, I think, Chris, a result from the men's singles quarterfinal. They're playing as we speak.
It's
and
on
Daniil
a knife
Medvedev.
edge.
It's on a knife edge. We've sort of got it on while we're recording. He's had a few match points, but Andrei Rublev is like clinging on.
We're kind of hoping you'd take one so we could update you.
Yeah, we were kind of hoping that, we could give a full actual result because this could age terribly if Rublev stages a dramatic comeback.
Medvedev has got the win in straight sets and then he ends up losing in 5.
Yeah. I mean, it's looking likely that Rublev's actually got a game point for 5-all in the third now, but it is looking likely that Medvedev will come out on top. I feel like Medvedev has snuck his way through this draw without much fanfare, and it's all been Alcaraz, Djokovic, you know, talk and hype, and also, I guess, Ben Shelton as the home hope. But Medvedev, I think, you know, sitting quite pretty, likely to go into the semi-finals. Yes, he's dropped like that set against Alex de Minaur, but he's sort of dispatching Rublev, quite a standard scoreline so far. What do you rate his chances? I mean, we've got Alcaraz Zverev to come in the evening session, but do you think Medvedev could do anything to upset maybe an Alcaraz in the semi-final based on what you've seen from him?
I think it's difficult. Obviously, they played earlier this year. I believe that was at Wimbledon, where he just stood far too far back. And obviously Alcaraz can hit through the court and he's serving pretty well and moving well, and it just was such poor tactics from a matchup perspective. So we saw him not really change it up either. So I guess for me it's a case of, is he willing to adapt his game to come through against an Alcaraz? In that case, I mean, he's played Zverev a lot this year. If he does come through, and I mean, he's won most of those results. He lost the most recent one and it's been not the prettiest of tennis. So I think it would be a case that, depending on who wins that match, I mean, in how he adapts his game, because if Alcaraz is playing well, I think we all are aware that Alcaraz would make the final. And I think probably with Medvedev and Rublev, I think we all thought that potentially, like their previous quarterfinals, it would be pretty straightforward for Medvedev, which is a good indication he's playing near his peak at the moment.
Yeah, I think so. And I think it'll be an interesting one, but I do think Alcaraz will still get the better of him. But we mustn't forget that Medvedev is a former champion here. You know,
Absolutely.
2 years ago, it was the year that Emma Raducanu won, wasn't it? That he had that sort of very strange win over Djokovic in the final.
Yeah.
But it's he's got another match point. It's looking likely it will be Medvedev. And
we should double down. Absolutely a straight set victory.
Unfortunately, it does mean that Rublev continues to be the bridesmaid at Grand Slams, you know, reaching
He's
that
quarterfinal.
Yeah, and not going any further. So maybe Rublev needs a Brad Gilbert to come along and...
He does. He looks so stressed on the court. He's so angry. And he seems like such a nice chap off the court. So you just have to think that maybe he isn't enjoying it as much as he should do. So if it's as easy as just smiling a bit more, then, I mean, I wouldn't pay Brad Gilbert that much money to tell me that.
No. So let's just quickly look ahead to tonight. We've got Vondrousova against Keys and then Alcaraz Zverev, as we said. Where are you going for those matches, Chris? Vondrousova or Keys?
Vondrousova really had a lot of ice and taping on her elbow following her singles win. And I think she was quite hampered by that. She's had a couple of days, obviously pulled out the doubles. So I'm thinking Vondrousova won't be able to win that match, and I'm not sure if she'll complete it. I think she'll only complete it if she wins the first set, and Madison Keys is a bit off. But I have to think Madison Keys probably is going to get that one because of Vondrousova's impairment. Yeah. What do you think?
That'd be such a shame. Well, I hope that doesn't come to that. It'd be such a shame and a real letdown, I think, because I'd love to see Vondrousova for, going really deep here as well. But given Keys' comfort on these courts, she's been to the final here before, I believe, and
yes,
we know how on her day she's, such a sensational player. So I do think Keys actually, given Vondrousova's, potential injury, I think it could be straight sets.
Yeah,
Keys.
I think it could be as well, but that would actually be beneficial to you, Kim, because you have Vondrousova for the quarterfinal and collector set. So there would be a silver lining there for you.
There would. That is true. I knew that was going to happen all along.
Yes, exactly.
Alcaraz Zverev. I'm going to go Carlos in 4. What about you?
Ooh, Carlos in 4. I think probably Carlos in 3 for me. I think Zverev against Sinner. I think although there were some real positives in that match, I don't think it would hit the heights tennis-wise, if I'm being brutally honest. I think Zverev announced that he was back with that victory, but I think Sinner was cramping from the second set onwards. So I don't think Alcaraz is going to be cramping, and I think a fully fit Alcaraz is a tougher prospect than a cramping Sinner.
No, that's fair enough. Yeah, I just feel like Zverev might sneak a set, but I think Alcaraz overall. And then obviously we don't have the full semi-final lineup for the ladies, but we do have Coco Gauff and Karolina Muchova. So out of those two, who do you think is going to make their first US Open final, and in how many sets?
I just think that Gauff Muchova is going to be match of the tournament. I think seeing them both play, being physically fit, there was a bit of taping, I think, as well on Muchova for her last match. But I think, I do just think there's something about Coco Gauff this year. And I know that we've talked about this with Ons, where everyone thinks something's going to happen and wants something to happen. And then obviously a check can come in any minute and take the dream away. So I think this will be a 3-set one. I think it will be on a knife edge. I'm going to say Muchova. I really, really do want Coco, but I also really like Muchova. But I think Muchova can ask a lot more questions than some players can. And in a third set, I think she's not going to hand you the win.
Yeah, well, I'm going to go Coco Gauff, I think, but 2 tight sets.
Well,
I think
we do have
Goff's
a result as well, by the way, Kim.
Oh,
Medvedev has gone through 6-4, 6-3, 6-4, so we don't have to redo the podcast.
That's good. That's a relief. Thanks, Daniel.
For getting it done.
He made hard work of it at the end there, I think, having multiple match points, but he has got the job done. So we will see Medvedev awaiting the winner of Alcaraz and Zverev. And one winner we also need to await is the winner of our collector set challenge, because we do have currently someone on 2 correct answers.
We do indeed.
We've got possibly the potential for someone to get 4 correct. So we've still got a couple of options still open. The person that's actually currently in the lead is my father, Mike McKenzie. Big shout out.
Can you believe it? Have you been helping him?
No, I promise this is all above board. He's currently the only entrant with 2 correct answers. He was the only person to get Caroline Wozniacki right. So well done, Mike.
Well done, Mike.
But we do have 3 others who could be in for the win, depending on how results go. Well, that's Alexis McCarty, Alicia Hamilton, and Linny Pin. So, guys, it's still possible. And special mention to Tom Bryant and David Blaher, who are the only people to get Tsitsipas right, because a lot of people, just totally got Tsitsipas wrong.
Yeah,
like myself,
like both of us. I think out of the 3 of us, we did do an update last time, Kim, and I had one person I could get right, and that was Carlos Alcaraz. So I am going for 1. So your father has already beaten me, and he can still get 4 points. So maybe he should host the podcast instead.
Maybe he could be our 4th co-host.
Exactly.
I'm sure he'd relish that opportunity.
Chris and Mike.
But that's pretty much us for our quarterfinal roundup. I think special mention to anyone listening from the US. Tomorrow, apparently at the US Open, it's free entry to go into the grounds. So perhaps if you're in that area and you've never been and you want to check it out, or you live nearby, might be the perfect opportunity to go and enjoy some tennis.
Sounds lovely. I mean, that's a definitely worth going, especially with so many junior matches still going on the outside courts, and you'll have the wheelchair doubles will also be being played. So well worth a visit.
And maybe you could, you've saved on the entry fee, you could splash out on a honey juice.
Yeah, it's €22 for the entry fee and you get a honey juice.
Euros, Chris.
Dollars. What country am I in?
Oh,
it's not even euros in Denmark.
I know, you don't even use euros where you live, so I
No.
don't know where that's come from. But listeners, I do hope you've enjoyed our latest episode of the Tennis Weekly podcast. Remember to subscribe to us to stay up to date on all the action from Flushing Meadows at the US Open. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all major podcasting platforms out there. And if you like what you're hearing, then do make sure to leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
You can also follow us on social media or email the show. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube at Tennis Weekly Pod. And do check out our merchandise store on Etsy. It's etsy.com/shop/tennisweeklypodcast. You can also email the show, tennisweeklypod@gmail.com, or check out our website, tennisweekly.co.uk.
And we'll be back on Saturday at Tennis Weekly HQ for our semi-final US Open catch-up, sponsored by AG1. So I hope you can join us for that. But in the meantime, it's goodbye from Chris.
Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from me. And we will see you again soon.